Morning. Welcome to the first ADA webinar of 2014. Special thanks to Anne-Marie Cochran, Education Committee Chair, and our entire Education Committee for the coordination of today's webinar. If you didn't already read the webinar housekeeping items, please note the following. If you have difficulties hearing or viewing the webinar, please call the ADA office at 717-724-0204. Questions for today's webinar will be vetted through the moderator. To ask a question, please click the speech bubble. Type the question into the chat box that appears, then click send or press the enter key. Bob will answer questions at the end of today's webinar. All attendees for the webinar will be entered in a raffle for 2 tickets to Bob Negen's Retail Success Summit that is being held June 30th and July 1st in Grand Rapids, Michigan. These tickets are valued at $1,994, and we thank Bob for offering them to one of our webinar attendees. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Bob Negen. Bob is a retail speaker who knows what retailers face, the challenges and opportunities, and how to deal with them. Bob's hard-hitting and often hilarious training stories come from more than 2 decades in the retail industry, building his own retail store from a pitiful $17,000 in annual sales to a multi-store, multi-million-dollar operation. Bob's independent retail tools make him uniquely qualified to administer tough love. As a speaker, he'll make you laugh and make you think, but he won't let you off the hook. In the end, your audience will know the responsibility for their success rests squarely on their own shoulders. Plus, they'll get the tools, inspiration, and training in the retail industry they need to go home and make it happen. Please welcome Bob.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored that you're giving me an hour of your time. And here's what I will promise you, that if you take to heart what you're learning today, that you will be able to see 10, 15, 20, 30% sales increases, perhaps even more. Let me start you out with a story. A true story, by the way. So 3 years ago, I met a mother and a daughter who owned a gift store. I met them at the Dallas Gift Mart. Jamie Boyd and Jamie and Linda, I don't need their last names, and they had owned their retail store for 6 years. And what they shared with me later as we became friends was that the year that they met me in Dallas 3 years ago was a make-or-break year. They had owned their store for 6 years. It hadn't grown at all. In fact, sales were down just slightly, but down. And they were tired of working too hard and not making any money. And so they became part of our community, and one of the things that, and you know, as being part of that community, they came to the Retail Success Summit in Grand Rapids. And on the plane, or let me back up, at the summit, the very last thing that everyone does is creates an action plan, you know, something to go home with. You learned all this great information in 2 days. What are you going to do with it? And on their plane ride back from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Austin, Texas, they made a commitment to creating a sales culture. They made a commitment, and I think this is very important. And so they got back, and Jamie got serious about being a great salesperson. That's the first thing that she did. But then she also then, after becoming a great salesperson herself, took that commitment and drove it down to the employees, drove it down to the store level. And I am happy to report that for the last 3 years, Point of Origin in Lakeway, Texas, has been up over 30% a year, each year, 30% over 30% over 30%, not 30% over the original year, and they attribute it directly to that commitment to sales training. And so that's the first thing to understand, is that your focus and commitment is the foundation to your success. And I want to say something else, and if you're taking notes, which I hope you are, please write this down. Training never ends. Another quick story. Andy and Adrienne Tessine have 3. They're going to open a 4th one here in a few days. pet boutiques, pet stores in Illinois, in the Chicagoland area. And what Andy shared with me one day, that even though he had done a lot of sales training, he had really, he had made a point of training his people how to sell, he heard he was on a webinar like this, or maybe he participated in our retail-a-thon. Something prompted him to go back to sales training. So again, these people had been trained. He went back and retrained them. The next day, his average sale was up 20%. And what that says to all of us is that you have to never stop. And your focus and commitment to this never-ending process is going to be what makes you successful. Sales training is the lowest of the lowest hanging fruit, but if you don't make a commitment to it and you don't stay with it all the time, it's not going to work for you, or it's not going to give you what you should and could. And so before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of this, I'd like you to do something for me. I'd like to make you uncomfortable, or maybe make you happy by showing you an opportunity. You can take it either way. And what I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you to write down your average sale. You have that number, that average sale. And then I'd like you to write down the average sale of your best salesperson. Average sale of your best salesperson. And I'd like you to take a look at the difference between that. And so, since we can't talk to each other, I'm going to give an illustration from, an event that I did live. Just a couple weeks ago, I was speaking, and there was, a mother and a daughter who have two women's boutiques, lovely, lovely stores, and we were talking about the average sale. And so I said, what's your average sale? And their average sale was $65. And I said, what's the average sale of your best salesperson? And the answer to that was $200. And I looked them in the face and I said, guess what? Every time someone other than your $200 average salesperson is talking to somebody, it's costing you $135. And you could just see the wheels spinning. And it's true, right? Because that $200 average salesperson doesn't get a better quality customer. They just do more with them. And so, if the difference was, let's say, $50 in your case, figure out how many transactions your other salespeople are participating in, and then you get a bead on the opportunity that you have. I see this happen all the time, where people get serious about sales training and great things start to happen. Great things. Sales training. Recognize this. Selling is a skill. You can have the people who are the most passionate about horses, the most passionate about tack, but if they don't know how to sell, you are not going to give your customers the service they deserve, nor are you going to put the money in the bank that you should and could. So there's three pillars to this whole piece. And I just want to sort of point out before we begin that we've only got 40 minutes left. That includes Q&A. So I'm not going to be able to dive deep into any of these subjects, but when we're done here, you'll sort of see the direction to take. So there's a difference. We could spend literally a full day just on sales training, or literally a full day on coaching, and literally rewards, and literally a full day on accountability. We only have an hour to cover all of it. So just recognize that when you're done, you're going to have a direction. If you want to go deeper, you can, of course, but that direction is what we're looking to do today. So recognize that all three of these pieces are important. Miss one of the pieces, and you're not going to get the power of, the sum. So here's the process that I teach. The process that I teach is 6 steps to a perfect purchase. And we're only going to spend about, 10 or 15 minutes going through how I look at sales training for retailers. And, one of the things that I will say to you, if you like what you hear today and you want a training program that's already built that teaches this whole thing, that has all the pieces that you're going to learn about here today, you can go onto our website, whizbangtraining.com, and look at the Retail Mastery System, because in the Retail Mastery System there is a module that gives you all the tools you need to do what you're going to learn here today. Having said that, you don't need to have the Retail Mastery System to learn what we're learning today. This is my process to teach sales training. You can create your own process, but there has to be a process. It could be Carla's 4 steps to an amazing sale, or Glenn's. It's good to see so many familiar names on the call here today. Glenn's 19 steps to something or other. But you have to have a process so that your people, when they get on the floor, they go boom, 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 boom. That there's a logical progression to their conversation with the customer. So here's what I teach, real quickly. I teach there's a greeting, and the greeting is never, may I help you. The greeting is always a way to get into a relationship. So, there's questioning and commenting. There's, you can always talk about the weather. If you see somebody's got a truck outside, you can ask them about their truck. You can talk about their clothing. You can comment on anything. But the point here is that the greeting in this process is all about building a relationship. The first time I met my wife, Susan, I did not ask her to marry me. We had to build a relationship a little bit first. And that's what the greeting is all about. And the second step then is questioning and listening. You see, in the greeting phase, you're building trust so that when you ask them intelligent questions, they'll give you the answers you need to get to this thing called a perfect purchase. So before we go any farther, let me define a perfect purchase. And this is a term that I coined to sort of in reaction to what I see a lot of sales trainers do, which is that is to focus on the biggest number, the biggest transaction. And I don't think you're serving your customers well if you just focus on yourself. I think if you focus on your customers first and the size of the transaction second, 2 things happen. A, they're a lot happier, and B, you just sort of naturally get to a bigger sale. So a perfect purchase is something that is the thing that person buys is exactly what's right for them. It's not what you want to sell them. It's not what's got the best margin. It's not what has the highest ticket. It's what's right for them. Because here's what I know. When you sell somebody, when you get your customer to the perfect purchase, meaning they go, wow, that's exactly right. That is exactly what I need. They are going to come back again and again. They're going to tell their friends about you. They're going to, the word in the equestrian community is going to spread like wildfire. If you're just trying to shove something that you want them to have down their throat, just the opposite happens. So we're always looking to get to a perfect purchase. Personally, I would rather send someone down the road than sell them something that isn't perfect for them. Why? Because I'm focused on the lifetime value of a customer. I'm focused on the relationship, not on the individual sale. So there's the greeting, and then we get into questioning and listening, which is where we get to this whole perfect purchase thing. And the first question is called the key question. And it's called the key question because it unlocks the door to your customers' wants, needs, desires, what they really want. So there's two types of key questions. One is the assumptive key question. And so here's an example. If I had a quilt store, I would ask an assumptive key question. I would assume they're working on a project, and I would ask them this question. So what project are you working on today, right? That assumes they're working on a quilt project, and then as they start to answer questions, then we go farther. The other kind of key question is called a choice key question. And a choice, that's what I used at the Mackinac Kite Company when I owned my retail store. I'd say, are you looking for a kite for yourself, or are you looking for a kite for a gift? You see, and then if they said they were looking for a kite for themselves, it would lead to one line of questioning. If they said they were looking for a gift, it would lead to another line of questioning. But that's the first question, the key question. But then this is where it all gets really, really cool. This is what separates the pros from the amateurs. This is where you make money. This is where your customers realize that you are the only logical choice for them to bring their business. And so what you're doing is you're asking lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of good quality questions. So most good questions have these words in them, usually led with these words: how, what, why, where, and when. What are you looking for? What kind of horse do you have? How big is he? Now I'm sort of showing my lack of equestrian knowledge. I'm just kind of winging it. But what type of temperament does she have? All these kinds of questions. And every time they give you an answer, your knowledge of what they really want and need gets greater and greater and greater and greater and greater until finally you get to that place where you go, this is the perfect thing for you. And if they look you in the eye and it starts to sparkle and they say, yes, that's perfect, then you have a perfect purchase. But it's all about questioning and listening. It's not about talking. It's not about giving them all the information that you know. It's about listening. In fact, Susan, when she taught 5th grade, now Susan is my wife and my business partner here at Whiz Bang Training, and she's a retail expert, but for a couple of years she taught 5th grade. And in 5th grade they teach active listening. And active listening is when you listen with your eyes, ears, hands, heart, and mind. And that's what the best salespeople do. They really, really, dial into the person who they're talking to. Because, quite often they'll say one thing and mean another thing. And if you're not really paying attention, you're not going to catch those cues, whether they're verbal, whether they're body language, whether it's something that's happening in the way that they're looking at you. But if you're locked into that person and really, really focused on getting them to a perfect purchase, you're going to, ask good questions and get to that place. So while you're asking questions, while all this good stuff is happening, while they're sharing with you about their horse and what their problem is or what their opportunity is, you're also then, when you start to bring them around and start to show them merchandise, really what you're doing, that's when the show and tell starts. And this is where it all gets great, because this is where you have an opportunity to make the product that you're showing come alive. So if you're showing a pair of boots, you pick it up and you say, wow, feel that, that kind of stitching. Now, I'm showing my ignorance, or a saddle. Now I'm showing total ignorance. But wow, look at that leather. Feel that leather, I don't know. But you understand what I'm saying, right? You really have to, show some enthusiasm for the product. If you're showing clothing, make sure that people, feel it. Rub it against their skin. Feel how soft that is. But that's something that you can do that an internet merchant can never do. Try it on. Does it fit perfectly? But show and tell. Really, really make a point of making your products come alive while you're talking to them, while you're asking questions. Because while you're demonstrating, while you're doing the show and tell, you're also listening, so to speak, for those kinds of cues that we talk about. So if I show somebody, if I'm showing a saddle, I'm just making this up clearly, and I talk about, the stitching, and I see that person, come alive, so to speak, well, that gives me some cues, and it gives me some place to go, and I sort of continue on that line of questioning. So once you get to this place at a perfect purchase, meaning they know that it's perfect, you know that it's perfect, they know that, you know that it's perfect, then it's time to close the sale. To close the sale. And this is where it goes wrong so often, and this is why it's a training issue. Because, if you have nice, kind, helpful people working for you, they'll, if they get into a conversation, let's just use the example of saddles. Because I was just in our Platinum Mastermind group, there's a tack store. Actually, there's a couple of tack stores. But I was just at one of these stores, and we were in the saddle department looking at saddles, in the English department. And, she was very, very, very passionate about it. But it's about saddles. But it's a $2,500 purchase. So you think about this. If you get somebody who knows saddles, and this is not what happened there, but if you get somebody who knows saddles, is passionate about saddles, who can do a great job having a conversation about saddles, but then doesn't know how to ask for the money, you're risking letting somebody walk out of the door with their $2,500, and you're not giving them the service they deserve. This is important. You're not giving them the service they deserve. So you, as an owner, must teach your people how to close. And closing isn't rocket science. Usually there's just a couple of quick things you need to teach your people, and then just make sure they become very comfortable with it. So, for instance, one of my favorite closes is to just ask for it. Ask for it. So I'm going to use, again, my sort of probably inaccurate example of, me selling an English saddle. And so I'm asking a lot of questions. And so, Carla, you're here on the line, so I'm asking you questions. Finally, we get to this place where I know it's perfect. You know it's perfect. I know that it's perfect. And I say, wow, Carla, that's perfect. Would you like that? That's a closing question. Would you like that, or how would you like to pay for that? We've already gone through the whole thing. We know that this is right. So just to ask for it. Assume the sale's been made. Another way to do it is to offer a choice. So, for instance, when I was in the kite world, one of our most popular kites was a triple trilby. It was 3 kites that you flew at once, and there were color combinations. So if I asked a lot of questions and I understood that it was the right kite for the person I was talking to, I would pull out 3 different color combinations and say, what color do you like? And they'd say, I like the red, green, blue. That means the sale's been made. I would put the kite in their hand and say, well, let's go up to the counter. So what I want you to understand is that you must become an expert closer yourself. And more importantly, you must teach everyone on your team how to be expert closers. Because if they do, there's nothing worse from my perspective as someone who cares about your business than to see people get the sale 90% of the way there and then watch it walk out the door. That money should be yours. Those customers should be yours. If they walk with it and you've gotten them 90% of the way there, I guarantee you, they're as frustrated driving away as you are because they want that thing. That's why they're in your store. So, teaching people how to close. And I want to say one last thing about the close before we move on. This sounds mercenary, but it's not, because, again, we care about our customers, and they're there for a reason, and we know this is the right thing. We know this is the perfect purchase. When you ask a closing question, shut up. The first person to talk loses. Again, that sounds mercenary, but and this took me a long time to learn. Even after I knew it, it was a skill. So, when you ask a closing question, wow, this is perfect. Would you like it today? You need to take a deep breath and just stand there. Let them say yes or let them say no. They say yes, great, the sale's been made. They say no, it leads to another set of actions. The next one is adding on. And so two things should be happening. First of all, you should be adding on, sort of during the sale, but once they've decided, so, again, I'm going to give my inaccurate example of the English saddle. So once I've decided that I want this saddle, then it becomes a question of making sure that I have everything I need for the experience to be amazing. So if you send me home and then I go, crap, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, you aren't giving me the service I deserve, nor are you putting the money in the bank that you should. This is a training issue also, isn't it? So let's say I'm buying a horse for the very first time. I don't know what I need. It's your job as an independent retailer to see for me, to show me what I need. And, this is what separates you as an independent tack store from the online merchants, from, the people who are selling tack but don't have people who know tack. So you just really, just recognize that adding on and building this sale up by giving them everything they need to give them is giving them the service they deserve, and it's putting more money in the bank. Then, of course, there is the register. The next part of this whole adding on, it happens at the register. And I really want to encourage you to recognize that your counter is an incredibly valuable space to you, and that you should have a lot of impulse items that are easy to demonstrate. And it should be a non-negotiable standard, defined as everybody does this every single time in exchange for their employment. It should be a non-negotiable standard that whenever anybody comes to the counter, they are shown something. It could be a $10 something. Again, I apologize. I just don't know enough about tax shops to really, to give good examples. But you know what I'm talking about. It could be 10, it could be 20, it could be 5. It could be a keychain, it could be magazines, it could be candy. But that space, having those impulse items, is an important part of maximizing every opportunity. And finally, there is the thank you. A sincere thank you is so very, very, very important. Those people are the lifeblood of your business. Without them, you have no business. So make sure that you and everyone on your team looks somebody in the face and says, thank you so very, very, very much. The sale isn't complete. The perfect purchase isn't done until there's a thank you. And just as an aside, I truly believe that the best thing that you can do is whenever anybody comes and buys from you for the first time, or anytime they make a significant purchase, that they get a handwritten thank you note in the mail. That's the kind of thing that distinguishes you as an independent tax shop from everyone else, or it distinguishes you from other independent tax shops. So few people really have the art of thank you down to a science. Okay, so that's my process. Now let's spend the next 15 minutes or so talking about how we create the culture. And again, I'm not going to go too deep in this. These are all systems and processes that I figured out myself, so you can figure them out also if you need to. But let's start with this quote by Peter Drucker, who is arguably the top business thinker of the 20th century. And he says, if you can measure it, you can manage it. And that's true. So what we want to do is we want to measure things. So, what we're talking, we want to measure statistics. We want to manage to statistics. So let's talk about the most important statistics. The 4 statistics that you should keep an eye on are, we'll go through them right now. First of all, there's items per sale. And, you can go back. This is being recorded, so you can go back and study these again. But items per sale is the total number of items divided by the total of sales. So items per sale shows that people are adding on. And then there's average sale. That shows that people are doing a good job selling. And then there's sales volume per hour. And sales volume per hour shows that people are actually on the floor selling. Common mistakes I see independent retailers make, and I'm not wagging a finger here because it was a mistake that I made for almost a decade, is when people become good, when they become experienced, after they've got some time working for you, they tend to be promoted to the jobs that, to the mundane jobs, but the jobs that take some experience. Things like checking in merchandise and running your tags and doing repairs and all of this stuff, not tax-specific stuff that it can easily be trained. So what I found, all of a sudden, I had this big realization one day. It's like, wait a second. All the best salespeople, the people who have been with me for several years, are all in the back doing things. And in the front are my rookies, because they don't know how to run the computer system. They don't know how to run tags. They don't know how to check in merchandise. They don't know how to do special orders. They don't know how to do all that stuff. So, but it really, really woke me up to this fact that what I need to do is I need to put my inexperienced people doing those other sort of mundane tasks and keep my best people selling. So if you've got people in your business who have an incredibly high average sale but low sales volume per hour, it means that you've got them doing the wrong stuff. They need to be out on the floor selling. And then finally we have the close rate, which is also called conversion. And all you need to do is get a simple traffic counter. And what that tells you is how many people are coming into your store and not buying something. And, so when you start to look at these statistics, you start to get, you develop an opportunity to start to, A, diagnosing what's wrong, and B, correcting the problem. You get to go out and solve it. So this is really, really important stuff. If you don't pay attention to statistics, you are never, and I do mean never, going to be able to maximize your sales. You don't have to pull in one new customer to see significant sales increases. You just need to do the absolute best with every customer you already have. And by paying attention to statistics, coaching to statistics, you're going to really, really do the most with what you have. So let's start with how this works. So you want to use statistics to create standards, because standards are what people pay attention to. This is what the standards are, things that you hold people to. And so you want to start with the store average. Let's say your average sale is $75. So start with that average, and then look at your point of sale system and say, who's lower than $75? Well, that's an opportunity. If you've got somebody on your staff whose average sale is $55 and your store average is $75, what that says to me is that every time that person is talking to someone, it's costing you $20, assuming they make the sale, because they probably don't close as well as your best salespeople either. So start with your store average and then have benchmarks for individuals. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that the people who are below your averages are coming up to the average, but then also make sure that the people who are at your standard, your average standard, or above, that you're pushing them to get better. How do we do this? We coach behaviors. We change the behaviors. And so there's two things that happen. One is on the floor, on the fly coaching. First one is called the one-sentence wonder. And it goes something like this. If you catch somebody doing something right, selling, you say, wow, great job adding on. Or, Hope, I love the way you were really listening to that woman. You see, so what you do is you catch them doing something right and you reinforced the correct selling behavior with one sentence. You have to mention the behavior because that's where the reinforcement comes from. Self-review is another one. That self-review is when you say, I would say, I'm looking for another name here, I would say, Chrissy, wow, that was amazing. Wow, that was quite a sale. How did you do it? And what it forces Chrissy to do is to go back through and, say, well, she said this, and that led me to that. It forces her to review what happened in her mind, and it reinforces all the things that she did right, meaning she's more likely to do it correctly the next time also. And then finally, we have the weekly coaching meeting, and I guarantee you that if you would give me, so to speak, 10 minutes, 15 minutes per employee per week, that you can get 10 or 15% increase in your average sale. In other words, 10 or 15% increase in your annual sale. And what I'm talking about is to have a weekly meeting that should not take you 5 minutes to create and 5 minutes to have the meeting. And you can go back and look at this, but what I'm suggesting is that you should have a coaching log for every employee, and that once a week you go and you look at their sales statistics, you see opportunities, you see problems, you see what they're doing well, and you reinforce them. You see what they're doing poorly, and you coach them. But that 5 minutes every week, boom, you spend 5 minutes looking at the statistics and 5 minutes talking with the employee, and you always have an action plan part of it. Man, oh man, what are we doing? We're keeping people focused on selling. So we have team meetings is another way to, really get everybody working on the same page, moving forward. Case study. One of the most successful sewing centers I know, Linda Z's Sewing Center, she has a mandatory weekly sales meeting, 1 hour, mandatory. Wow, I was like, wow, Linda, that's great. And every week she has 40 minutes of product training and 20 minutes of sales training. Linda has been showing her team the same video, my video on how to get a perfect purchase, the same video for 3 years now. It is only an hour and 15 minutes long. Why? Because what she said to me is she said, Bob, I want them to hear your voice in the back of their heads when they're on the floor. And this isn't about me. This is about reinforcing what's important. So regular team meetings, advanced and ongoing training, that's the kind of thing that you get from your vendor. Personal gestures, really make a point of paying attention to your employees, doing great things, the one-sentence wonder is a wonderful personal gesture. It has intrinsic value. Having sales games is another great way to keep people focused on selling. Pass the buck goes something like this. I start the day with a $20 bill, and Glenn has a $100 sale. The buck gets passed to Glenn. And then Anna Marie has a $300 sale. The buck gets passed to Anne Marie. And Hope has a $2,500 saddle sale. The buck gets passed to Hope. And whoever has had the biggest sale at the end of the day gets to keep the buck. $20 is the right number. I mean, I'm not going to go into it because I'm running short of time. Don't go 50. Don't go 10. I've got a lot of experience with this. 20 is the right number. And finally, there's a bonus program, and we don't have time to go into it, but this is a bonus program that I developed at the Mackinac Kite Company, and this is one of those things that's in the Retail Mastery System, but I developed this on my own. You can develop a bonus system on your own also, but what I want to just sort of state about the bonus program is that I don't like commission sales. It forces people to compete and get sharky. I created this particular bonus program so it was based on team sales. And again, you know, what I'm just sharing with you is another way to create the culture. So what we've talked about so far, let's sort of go back and quickly review. We started with skills, and I showed you a process. You can create your own selling process, of course, but I strongly recommend that there is a process that gets taught, that gets reinforced. That's the skills part of it. Selling is a skill. If you don't give them the skills, you can't expect them to be successful. The second leg in that three-legged stool is rewards. And so, you know, we talked about several things. So what you want to do is you want to, you know, reward them for selling better. But then if you don't have accountability in place also, you're not going to get the results that you could. You're still going to do great. You're still going to be a much better store than all of your competition if you just do what I shared with you. But if you put rewards into place, then all of a sudden, you know, there's the magic in those three. So we talked about the weekly coaching meeting. That is a reward and accountability tool. Reviews are another way to keep people accountable. If you can talk about statistics in their reviews, it's another way to make sure that everybody understands that their job is to be out on the floor selling stuff. Their job is not to keep the back room nice. Their job is not to keep the bathrooms clean or the windows clean or the displays done. Their number one job is to serve the customers that come into your store and make sure that they're getting everything they need, the right things they need, that they're making the perfect purchase. And finally, there's a secret shopper program, and you can hire secret shopper services, or you can create one of your own that's very, very simple to do. You know, you hire friends or nonprofit organizations. You give them a $20 bill to come into your store. You create a form like the type that you see right here. You have sales behaviors as part of your form, and then what you're doing is you're getting objective feedback to make sure that the selling skills that you are really determined to have happen on your floor are actually happening. So here's just an example of a secret shopper form that we used and that a lot of our clients use now. Did someone acknowledge you within 30 seconds? Did they greet you with the words, "Can I help you?" Because, of course, those are the worst words in retail. Did they seem genuinely interested in helping you? Did they ask at least 3 questions to find out exactly what you were looking for? Did they recommend any additional items? In other words, did they add on? But you see what's happening? When your staff knows that that you're paying attention to those behaviors via a secret shopper form, they're much more likely to do it every single time, and the power comes from consistently executing in your selling behaviors. So there it is. That's the big picture, and I'm going to again challenge you and state to you rather unequivocally that there's at least 15%, unless you've created a really, really top-drawer sales culture already, and I haven't seen very many retail independents that have. There's enormous opportunity for you. But your focus and commitment is the foundation of your success. If you don't make a commitment to it, if you don't stay with it, if you don't push against that rock for a long time till it becomes part of who your business is, you're not going to get what you could. So, and as somebody who cares deeply about your success, I would really, really like to see you, really create that really, really top drawer culture because, man, there's just so much money in it for you. Okay, so let's do this. Let's give away 2 tickets to the Retail Success Summit. And I'm just sort of looking at the attendees, and I see that there are a couple people who I know are already coming. So you may win some more tickets, but let's give away 2 tickets to the Retail Success Summit. Before we announce the winner, let me tell you a little bit about the Retail Success Summit. 2 days, Grand Rapids, Michigan, between 450 and 500 independent retailers come from all over the world. And I do mean, last year we had someone come from Scotland. For 2 years before that, people came from Italy. They come from Mexico, all over the United States and Canada, Puerto Rico. And, we don't focus on tack. We don't focus on pets. We don't focus on bikes. All we focus on is how do we build even more amazing businesses. And these are the best of the best there. And we bring in world-class speakers. We have breakout sessions. The energy and the networking is amazing. So if you win this, make a point of being in Grand Rapids. Even if you don't win, but you want to come, here's what I'm going to offer. Everybody who listens to this, if you call our office at 1-800-842-1660, I will offer you a $500 discount. Regularly, the registration is $997. Because you're an ADA member, because you've spent the time on this webinar, you can save $500. So it's only $497 for you. So anyway, let's give it away, and then we've got a couple minutes for Q&A.
Thank you, Bob. We put the names in a drawing, and Kelly Hurd was the winner for today. However, he just emailed me that he lost power and was disconnected from the webinar, but I'll be in touch with him to get all the details and connect him with your staff so that we can get him at the summit. And thank you very much. And
give him a heartfelt congratulations from me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to seeing him there.
Thank you so much for the discount for all of the attendees today. That's fantastic.
You're welcome.
If people want to ask questions at this point, we do have the chat bubble feature, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, and that will bring questions right to me that I will filter to Bob.
Or Jennifer, since I see that, since it's a more intimate group, we could even open up the phone lines and talk.
Sure. John, do you want to start filtering that?
Absolutely, Jen. We'll go. It's up to you. I can simply either unmute all the lines right now, or we can ask questions by hitting whatever your preference is, Bob.
Yeah, well, unmute them all. Anybody, if they want to shout out something, they can.
In the meantime, Bob, we did have one question from Glenn that was emailed in. Is it a good idea to show staff the secret shopper form before the program begins?
Absolutely. Great question, Glenn. So, if they feel like you're trying to catch them, if they feel you're being sneaky, it's going to be a real demotivator. You want to position your secret shopper program as we're doing this to make sure that our customers get an amazing experience. Here's what it is. This is not hard stuff, ladies and gentlemen. All you have to do is do these 15 things right all the time, and our customers are going to have a better experience. You're going to have more fun because everything's going to run better here, and, we'll all make more money. So yes, you want to show them the form. I also believe that you should, when they come in, put them up on the, in your stock room, or if you have a bulletin board, put them up on the bulletin board. Here's something else that I found. So the Secret Shopper program that I just shared with you And Glenn, you have the Retail Mastery System, so you have the whole how to do it in there. And the bonus program is something else that I developed. I had to develop all of these tools in my retail store because there were all these things that needed to happen to sort of create the consistency that I wanted. But what I was going to share with you is, we talk about rewards and accountability as being two of the three. What I love to do and what I love to see is that bonus program and the Secret Shopper program happen at the same time. So in your back room, you've got your bonus program sheet where everybody's looking at, so everybody can see how they're doing on their selling skills, on their goals, and at the same time, see how they're doing with that sort of front-facing customer experience. So, yes, you want to show them, and here's what I honestly believe, and, I share this often when I talk about the Secret Shopper program. I believe that your store should be shopped once or twice a week forever. That, having your store shopped, which ends up costing you, the way that I recommend it's done, $40, so back out your cost of goods. It just ensures that there's going to be a consistent experience. And here's my experience with stores. In the beginning, the evaluations are spotty, meaning people aren't getting what they're supposed to do, and they're still stuck in the status quo, which means the service that they're giving is uneven. But after a few weeks, using the Secret Shopper results to coach people into the correct behaviors, pretty soon everybody starts to nail it every single time, which is, of course, the goal. It means that your customers are getting that amazing experience every single time. And then if you get your store shopped once or twice a week from now until forever, that's just a maintenance issue. But, as an independent, the experience your customers have is your number one competitive advantage. And the Secret Shopper form is a wonderful, wonderful way for you to absolutely ensure that your customers are getting that top shelf experience.
Can I ask a question? It's Hope.
Yeah, of course you can, Hope.
Hold on. I want to just redirect you slightly because on the phone today, Bob, we've got retailers, we have wholesalers, and we have sales reps. So
great.
What I wanted to sort of steer you around a little bit to is to make it clear that what you're talking about really applies to them as well. When I call an order into a wholesaler, maybe upsell. When a sales rep's in my store, if you could touch on that slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk to wholesalers and manufacturers. So thank you, Hope. I appreciate you saying that. I guess I just assumed this was for retailers because I'm a retail trainer, which was a bad assumption on my part, for which I apologize. But so, for instance, if I was a manufacturer or I was a wholesaler and I called, it's the difference between being proactive and helping your customers sell more of your stuff and just being an order taker. So, the best is... So Susan used to be the buyer. There's a quick story about that. Susan used to be the buyer at the Mackinac Kite Company. And I remember her, just chewing a sales rep out. And, it was very professionally done. But, so typically in those days, this sales rep came and just essentially was showing her the catalog. And she just looked at him and said, I can look at the catalog on my own time. What have you got for me? So what goes together? What's hot out there? As a sales rep, the perfect purchase concept applies just as much. If you're a sales rep or if you're a manufacturer, you're in the job of having your stores be more successful. You're in the job of asking good questions. You're in the job of adding on. You're in the job of suggestive selling. You're consulting about what they're doing. I'll sort of change it a little bit. Just recently on AmazingRetailers.com, which is our membership community, our online community, I did an interview with Dan Jablons, who's the owner of Retail Smart Guys, and he's an open-to-buy planner. And what he said was you, the retailer, should share your point of sale information, should share your statistics with your manufacturers, because when you share what you're doing with your manufacturers, if they're smart, they will see opportunities for you. So just as a retail salesperson has the obligation, in my opinion, to see for the customer. So somebody comes into the store, they're not just buying a saddle, they're buying an experience. They're buying they should be buying all the things necessary for that to be a great experience. As a sales rep or as a manufacturer, you have the same obligation. You have the same obligation to look at your customers and for your customers and help them find opportunities, help them find holes in their merchandising, help them find places to increase their margins. When you become partners in their success, you will make more money and they will make more money. I hope that's what is that what you were looking for me to address, Hope?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important that people don't think that what you're selling really just only lands in the retail world end user, but it really, if I call in for an order, they tell me there's a special that day, or there's some kind of, that they understand that the principles of what you're saying really carry all the way backward through the whole system.
It carries backwards, and one of the things that, so the best sales reps were also sort of the Pied Pipers. They were the gossips of the world, and I mean gossips in a great way. Hey, this person is, this item is hot. You need to have this, or if there's a great promotional idea, you want to ask for permission before you share somebody's promotional idea. But if you could say, Hope, Glenn did this thing, and man, oh man, it just absolutely crushed it. That's the sort of thing that builds a relationship that leads to increased sales for everyone.
Right. Exactly.
Anyone else? All right. Well, I hope that you all leave here with first of all, maybe a commitment or perhaps a renewed commitment to creating a sales culture. Remember, sales training is not a one-time occurrence. Sales training is an ongoing from now until you sell your stores for billions of dollars, or millions maybe. It's that big process because there's just so much there for you. So that's my number one hope for you, is that you take what you learned here today and you turn it into action, which turns into money.
Thank you so much, Bob, for sharing your knowledge and expertise today with our attendees. We appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome. And I'm honored that they gave me their time.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. That was great.
Take care.
And for just a minute, for the attendees, please note that in the next week or so, you'll receive a link with instructions how to download a copy of today's webinar. We've recorded it. So please be sure to check your email. And thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Wait, one last quick thing. Are you going to also send a link to the Whiz-Bang so that if somebody wants to attend?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
It's retailsuccesssummit.com.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. I'd appreciate that.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.